Hi. I was chubby starting about 8 years old. I the obesity gotten drastically worse through high school, and then primarily into college. Yes.
I was very concerned even when she started getting like high school age that her weight was really going up very quickly. I'd say within 4 years she had gained 150 pounds, which is really not normal. There was something else going on.
I wanted to tell myself that I started to notice problems in about 2008 when I was 23 years old. Um, with research and then especially having me look through old pictures of myself growing up, I do think there was probably issues that started well before then, but when I was 23 is when I noticed some serious problems.
She was very good at hiding the lymphedema from me. She would just get a bigger pair of pants, and I'm thinking she's just getting bigger until one day I got a phone call from her friend, and they were in the emergency room of the hospital, and her lower legs were the size of great big red oblong watermelons.
I was told I had just symptoms of hypothyroidism. That was treated to begin with just with general, I was on Synthroid, and we later found out through another physician that I have the autoimmune disorder that is associated with hypothyroid symptoms called Hashimoto's disease.
And she had developed the moon face, which was obviously part of the Hashimoto's thyroid disease. And it's like, how could I have not seen this as a mom who my daughter lived at home with me? So from that point, she was in and out of the emergency rooms or doctor visits, and eventually we went to, well, she had an 8-day stay in a hospital here in Barrington, Illinois, and they pumped her full of Lasix and potassium and magnesium and et cetera, and they sent her away saying, well, you've got fat people legs. That was the doctor's exact words.
The 3-year treatment of Lasix was very detrimental, and that I, through research of my own later on, learned that physicians want to go ahead and prescribe a strong diuretic such as that when they see swollen legs that are oftentimes attributed to congestive heart failure. We have learned that Lasix is not often the best solution for somebody that is suffering from lymphedema, and I do believe that during that treatment my legs did become much worse.
We said, we're not going to take this. They said, oh, you've got right side congestive heart failure.
Then I was in kidney failure. Then I had lung problems. Anything they could attribute swollen legs to that they didn't understand lymphedema, they didn't understand how to treat it. They saw a person who was obese with swollen legs and had to assume it was organ failure of some sort.
She spent 4 or 5 days up at Henry Ford Hospital there, which is a good teaching hospital. They didn't help. We spent a week at Mayo Clinic, the whole family. And basically, we walked away with no more answers than we had after, 5 years already.
I saw a therapist in Algonquin, Illinois, and we did the short stretch compression bandaging. At that time, I was not introduced to the manual lymph drainage. And it did work for a bit, but once my legs were small enough to put in compression garments, I wasn't given the proper ones. I was given just over the counter, and those were not doing what they needed to do, and eventually my legs got big again and much worse. In addition to normal problems associated with being overweight, just even more of a decreased mobility. The fact that the lymphedema had caused lobes to form, any kind of deformities made clothing very difficult to look for. And like I said, it just made any problem that I had related to obesity worse, much worse.
And it's a very depressing ordeal for a young 20-something person to have to go through. And it takes its toll. Not only the patient, but anybody involved with it, so.
You know, simplest things, walking, stairs, getting in and out of any vehicle that was slightly higher off the ground, bending, putting my shoes on. I mean, really everything put limitations on doing normal activities, normal exercising, housework.
It's not that she didn't go on interviews and send out applications. There were weeks she would have 3 and 4 interviews. They won't come out and tell you, you know, we're going to discriminate because of the way you walk and the size. You know that's what it was. If she was getting that many interviews and would never get a call back. And that alone can be very depressing, being, you know, no, 100 times over. And all she wanted to do was finish her education and work and be normal. Go to a store and be able to walk around and get groceries or go bowling again, whatever.
Yeah, that's difficult. You know, all eyes are on you at that point, and at times it's much worse dealing with the stairs and the emotional issues related to obesity than it is physical problems. Approximately 520 pounds, and that was at the end of 2010. I had recently reached out to a plastic surgeon to see. At that point, I was just interested in what they could do for my legs. You know, with the lymphedema, I was hoping they could remove things at that point, and I was told that there was nothing they could do at that point for me, that the first step I really needed to think about the gastric bypass. And I had met actually back in 2008 when I was hospitalized. I had seen Dr. Amir Hadari, who is a gastric bypass surgeon through Sintegra Hospital, and decided to look at their information online and saw that they offered free seminars. And from there on out, it was quite an easy decision. I had a really supportive group and went through a 3-month process, and it was a really easy decision after that point.
But we had our doubts because, you know, there's risks with any type of surgery and how she would mentally do with this. Because, you know, even the bariatric surgeon didn't know what would happen to her legs. He said it shouldn't make it any worse, but will it go away? Probably not on its own. So up until just about 2 weeks before the surgery, I finally felt, okay, I'm at peace with this. I'm at ease. She's ready. I know she's mentally ready, and the rest is history.
You know, it wasn't just a food change, it was a lifestyle change at that point. I had to, you know, learn, I had to hear my body and to know that, okay, I want this food versus I need this food. It was, everything had to change, not just the way I ate, but the way I was living my whole life. As I started to lose weight and noticed that my legs were obviously not going to completely improve on their own, but as I was losing weight, parts of my legs were getting smaller as well. It was just kind of a random thing. We were in that restaurant, a small family restaurant. We have friends with the owners, and she happened to have lymphedema in her foot. And she had told me to seek a lymphedema specialist at Edwards Hospital, I believe in Naperville. And the young lady that we saw there was very helpful, but I think she knew that my legs and my situation was maybe a little bit above and beyond what she felt comfortable treating. So she gave me Linda's contact information and mentioned to me that Linda was actually her instructor a few years back. So I did. I took her up on her offer and seeked Linda here at St. Joe's, and I was the best decision I've ever made.
Stephanie came in with her mom and her dad, and when family comes in, I do invite them to our treatment areas. You know, I don't know if Stephanie was more interviewing me or if I was doing an evaluation on Stephanie, because her guard was up, and to have people or false hope given to her or misinformation is devastating. She had already been through this process. So for us in lymphedema, you never know where the swelling is going to be with somebody. And Stephanie came in, her pants legs were very big, so I did not know the severity of her swelling, her lymphedema, when she came into the clinic until we got to the objective piece of her examination. So, and Stephanie, I think she questioned a couple times if I could handle this, if I had ever seen anything to this severity. So again, I think she had a guard up, to question if she was in the right place.
I honestly, at that point, I had so many failed attempts with physicians and specialists over the years that if any point in my life I had any kind of emotional problems or depression, it was actually during my treatment that it was happening. It was very hard on all of us to start the process of bandaging again and thinking and going back to seeing how we did it before, and it turned out to be, a failure.
I knew we had our work cut out for us, and with lymphedema, it's not something I can manage myself. It has to be a team support, and I felt that with her mom and dad in the room with her, and Stephanie's commitment, and the fact that she's already done the gastric bypass, I already felt that she had a commitment to take this next step forward, because her legs were large, and we did have a lot of work in front of us. So I felt that she was already in the right place to make those commitments to start with treatment. We chose 3 times a week, and they both made that commitment. Stephanie had chosen to have her left leg treated first because of the fact there was a massive localized lobe on the thigh, and it really was giving her great difficulty for walking. The lobe her right leg would run into this lobe every time she would move her legs forward. So Stephanie's choice was her left lower extremity first.
She was not able, obviously due to her size and the nature of her legs, she could not even pick up her own right leg on her own because it was so heavy. And if it was not for my husband, her stepfather, he would pick up and hold this limb, and Stephanie would be pulling on the straps for the flower petal, and I would try to be doing the wrapping, and Stephanie's handing us the tape.
Having to rely on other people to bandage my legs at home, and to have to make the commitment every night to go home and to get my legs wrapped from toe to groin, to know that, okay, I can't just go out and I can't do the things I wanted to do because this had to be a priority.
I know what we do works, and so it was just guiding Stephanie along the way of telling her, each of our steps. I couldn't wrap her all the way up to the groin to start with. I had to get her lower leg under control first. So no, I have the foundation for bandaging and manual lymphatic drainage, and I took that and used tools to really make her treatment successful. Her left leg was ready for garments within a couple weeks. She really did well on the left leg. But then when we started treating her right leg, her right lower leg was much more difficult to treat. And so at that point we made this decision somewhere in there that I needed to see her daily.
And yes, there were some nights that got very emotional and sad, and you name it. We were ready to give up there for a couple of weeks, and I think Linda can attest to that one.
Sure, there might have been a couple times where she would have said, she was done with this, but her mom wouldn't let her. And I told her mom if she wasn't coming, I would go get her.
But we didn't give up. I was not going to let her go back again.
So really, she had the support. I mean, again, Stephanie had made that first step with the gastric bypass.
I had to keep going. I knew that since I was continuing to lose weight, that maybe this was going to be the break I needed, and turn out to be exactly what we were looking for.
You know, I have confidence in what I do. I know what, you know, I've been doing this for a long time, so I instilled that confidence into Stephanie and her mom during the treatment sessions. And she saw treatment change, you know, each treatment she saw changes on her limbs, and that in itself really makes a big difference for each person coming back to therapy.
At the time when I wasn't working, coming here 3 days a week for my treatment with Linda, it gave me something to do. It actually felt like it was bringing a purpose back to my life, to actually get out of the house and to be able to be a part of something, yes.
I used tools within her treatment that assisted my bandaging, and again made our treatment more successful, but then allowed Stephanie to be able to manage this bandage when she was at home with her parents' help. The problem is she was having reduction in the limb. Her lobe on her thigh was very large, and as that was reducing, her bandages would shift, so it was difficult for her to go 2 days without changing that bandage or adjusting the bandage. So the tools that we used, Stephanie was able to carry on our treatment and make modifications in between our treatment sessions. Again, with her family support, they were great with understanding the concepts and the tools that I was using and how to make this treatment successful. And we started manual lymphatic drainage from her first treatment session.
I saw such vast improvements very quickly. I would have to assume that anything that she was doing that I hadn't tried before was playing a big role into the treatment and the reduction of my legs.
And it was interesting because Stephanie had said somewhere in the course of her treatment that she didn't feel manual lymphatic drainage was something that could be done for her because of her size, because it was never done when she had treatment in 2007. So she assumed it wouldn't be a tool or a treatment that could be done with somebody of her size. Stephanie started, her right lower extremity started at 32,600 milliliters to start. Her right lower extremity, 36 treatments later, ended at 15,800 milliliters. So she had a great volume reduction. Her right lower extremity reduced 16,800 milliliters. So as I explained that to Stephanie, take 8 2-liter bottles of soda, and that's how much her leg reduced. Her right leg only. Her left lower extremity, started at 24,000 milliliters and reduced down to 14,000 milliliters. So her left lower extremity reduced 10,000 milliliters. So combined, she had a 26 plus 1,000 milliliter reduction. That's a lot of fluid. A lot of weight. Stephanie's weight when she started with us, you had lost 115 pounds from the gastric bypass. She started at 395 with a BMI of 67.8 at the time of the evaluation, and at the time of discharge, which was in July, you were below 300 and you had a BMI of 38 at that point. So her BMI started at 67 and she went down to 38.
We didn't want to see her die by the age of 30, which is what one doctor had told us would be. She would not live to see the age of 30. And now she's doing wonderful, and she'll be 30 here in a couple months.
It's an absolute blessing. I was sick for nearly a decade, and for my life to do a complete turnaround in a very short period of time, at times I feel like I should be more excited, I should be more thankful, but then there's other times where I feel like this is how life is supposed to feel. This is what normal is supposed to feel like, so I don't concentrate on anything that used to be.
How we found Linda is a miracle, is the only way we can put it. It's like, how do you just come across somebody as wonderful and talented as Linda from a little family restaurant in Marengo, Illinois, and we both believe that she's saved Stephanie's life, not only physically, but emotionally. So that's where we are there.
I'm a friend now. You know, I think the piece that I don't realize, and I don't know that we do in medicine, how our work has impacted somebody's life. I mean, Stephanie, I see the things that Stephanie posts on Facebook and comments that she has made along the way, and I don't think that we really, as medical professionals, know the impact that we have on people. So it's nice that she has shared that information.
She's got a job now, a full-time job, and she's doing wonderful.
And I know that was a part of my life and it wasn't that long ago, but it feels like it was a long time ago, and that since this is what normal is supposed to feel like, it's hard to remember what it was having such difficulty.
Part of Klose Training's commitment is to help our students as they continue in the field, help our patients. We do that here in our clinic setting. So if Stephanie has a question, she can call, she can email, and we answer her questions because she's gotten too far to let this get out of control.
As much as lymphedema can control your life, and as much as the therapy and the treatment is important, it's not going to be helpful or successful until the weight is under control first. You have to make sure you are at a healthier weight. Otherwise, yeah, the treatment will not be, it may work, but it will not be as successful as it is supposed to be. Yes.